Imagine Florence in 1464, within a modest stone edifice whose exterior was almost studiously understated. An old man, hailed as the father of the fatherland, lay upon his deathbed. He had forsaken all pompous funeral arrangements, requesting only to be interred beneath a simple stone slab at the church of San Lorenzo. His final counsel to his son was this: wear black, listen more than you speak, and never let the world discern the true extent of your possessions. His name was Cosimo de' Medici. Tonight, by the rhythmic flicker of the hearth and through this narrative meant to be felt rather than memorized, let us step into the true odyssey of his life. He was the Pope's personal banker, the invisible godfather who pulled the financial heartstrings of Europe from behind the scenes, and the silent architect who ushered in the golden age of the Renaissance. Once cast into a high-tower dungeon by his rivals, hovering a breath away from death, he staged an elegant resurgence from exile, transforming Florence into a private city without a crown. This is a story of political stoicism, of forging order out of chaos, and of a profound devotion to the sustenance of human civilization born from the depths of a somber soul. The life of Cosimo de' Medici was initially tempered within the relentless dry tally of numbers and the complexities of double-entry bookkeeping. He was not the stereotypical noble youth atop a spirited steed, he was an observer lurking in the shadows. While his peers brawled for ethereal titles, Cosimo sat in the backrooms of apothecary shops, meticulously auditing bills of exchange from London, Paris, and Venice. Within these seemingly cold transactions, he discerned a singular truth: in this world, true power lies not in the height of one's seat, but in the breadth of the debts one holds over others. As he paced the counting house at midnight, his silhouette cast by candlelight against chests overflowing with florins, his absolute focus exerted a silent, heavy pressure on all around him. You must understand that in an age of treachery and upheaval, Cosimo's stoicism was a masterstroke of self-preservation. Realizing that the swelling Medici fortune would inevitably incite the envy and fear of the old aristocracy, he pointedly wore coarse robes and tipped his hat to every commoner in the street. This performance of austerity atop a gold mine provided him with a layer of camouflage, allowing him to quietly map out the future of an empire to the tempo of his tranquil footsteps. And the autumn of 1433, Cosimo encountered the most violent storm of his life, a stinging pivot of fate. He was imprisoned by rival families in the tower of the Palazzo Vecchio, where, in his narrow and frigid cell, he could hear the baying of the mob in the piazza below demanding his execution. Where a common man might have crumbled, Cosimo exhibited a terrifying composure. He refused to eat for fear of poison, yet used smuggled coins to bribe his jailers, ensuring secret orders regarding the transfer of family assets reached the outside world. He understood that physical shackles could not dismantle a banking empire built on credit. When he was finally sentenced to exile rather than death, Cosimo remained impassive. He even bowed elegantly to the judges before embarking for Venice with his ledgers in hand. During his year of exile, he did not indulge in self-pity. Instead, he flooded Venice with capital for arts and architecture, effectively paralyzing the commerce of Florence. This strategic retreat forced the Florentine citizenry to yearn desperately for the apothecary, who, though silent, provided both work and bread. Thus, in the moment he was discarded by power, Cosimo truly grasped the pulse of the people, preparing for his destined return as a king in all but name. Upon his return, Cosimo set the stage for 3 centuries of Medici dominance, yet he steadfastly refused any official title. He was managing more than a bank, he was architecting a spiritual order, founded on knowledge and art. Within the rugged walls of the Palazzo Medici, designed by Michelozzo, he listened to Donatello speak of the soul within sculpture and studied Platonic philosophy with Pletho. In his private study, brimming with Greek codices, Cosimo manifested an aesthetic tension far ahead of his time. He recognized that mere wealth is fragile. Only by yoking the family name to the zenith of human culture could eternal rule be secured. This extreme restraint lent Cosimo's later years a haunting, shadowy depth. He favored solitary afternoons in the cloisters of San Marco, watching monks transcribe manuscripts as if observing some divine cycle. Critics called him a mercenary merchant, but had you gazed upon his silhouette then, you would have seen no greed, only a dogged compassion for irrigating the cultural wilderness. He became the secret conduit of the Renaissance, transmuting mundane silver into immortal marble and canvas. In his final years, Cosimo's face grew gaunt from decades of calculation and modesty, yet within his sunken sockets, the fire burned with increasing clarity. He watched the rival families who once plotted his murder fall into bankruptcy, his eyes holding no hatred, only a serene understanding of natural laws. He knew Florence was ascending to the peak of prosperity he had personally drafted, yet he, the grand designer, was shrinking himself into a mere cipher. This indifference, of one who saw the essence of power yet chose to hide his name, was his most profound anchor. In his later journals, he penned ultimate reflections on humanity and wealth in prose that was both restrained and philosophical. He described the nature of power, It was like a game of Go played on a silent winter night. Victory lay not in the number of pieces captured, but in the amount of tranquility one finally encompassed. Every morning in Florence, he would inspect the construction of the San Marco Library, the final spiritual lighthouse he would leave for the city. There he was no longer the most powerful creditor in Europe, nor the godfather feared by political enemies. He was simply Cosimo, a speck of dust seeking a home within the cosmic rhythm of wisdom. This transition from absolute control to absolute transcendence allowed his life, before its final wither, to radiate a dignity as hard and pristine as jade. Late one night in 1464, within the shadows of San Lorenzo, Cosimo closed his eyes for the last time. When news reached Buckingham Palace, Notre Dame and the Vatican, there were no grand elegies. Instead, the entire city succumbed to an awestruck silence, a silence characteristic of Cosimo himself. He departed with profound quietude, as if simply finalizing a ledger to the very last florin. He had provided the answer to the question posed in the prologue. He forfeited a hollow name for the sake of an imperial legacy remembered 5 centuries later. And you, now, do you feel it? That sense of tranquility, as precise and stable as a Medici ledger, reaching across 500 years? The bells of Florence have long since changed, and the paintings of the Vasari corridor have gathered dust. Only Cosimo's stoic endgame remains in the deep midnight of history, like a dim lamp that refuses to be extinguished. This is a strength that does not need to roar, the finality of a hermit strategist. Tonight, may you drift into sleep accompanied by the scent of ink from Cosimo's journals and the steadiness born of his absolute composure. The world has fallen silent. It is time for you to let go of the day's distractions. Good night.